Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Project Positive Planet. Today we will be discussing the advancement of wellness and spa concepts of the future. Welcome, Lynn Curry. We have Mike Dalezman. Am I saying that properly? Oh, I can't hear you, Mike. and Clark Smiley.
Yep. Hi.
Hi. Welcome all. Thanks for being here with us today. Lynn, would you like to go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having us, Stephanie. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. I'm Lynn Curry. I'm with Resources for Leisure Assets. We are a spa and well-being hospitality firm with global offices. I happen to be based in our Sonoma, California office, so lucky me. I started my career with Hyatt Resorts Hawaii in both sales and spa operations. And I'm a member of the International Society of Hospitality Consultants and a certified management consultant. Thanks for having us.
You are welcome. And Clark?
Yes, I'm Clark Smiley. I'm a principal with Vita Master Planning and Landscape Architecture, based in San Rafael, California. I've spent my entire career designing luxury destination resorts and hotels all over the world. And we continue to make some of the best ultimate luxury hotels in the world. And I'm really happy to be here today on the committee and with the team and discussing these subjects.
Fantastic. And Mike? Mike, we can't hear you. Okay, we'll come back to Mike and we'll jump into the first question. So there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the world, and people are wondering. We had a great pre-conversation 2 days ago about what hotel categories do we think are going to be the most successful. What are your thoughts, Lynn?
So I think the boutique hotels are really up and coming when it comes to wellness and spa, because we have the opportunity in our industry to promote the wellness experience throughout the entire property, not just within the spa walls. And a lot of boutiques don't have spas because they don't have the space, or they might not be located on a big resort property. So I think that's where some of the opportunity is coming, in the boutique hotels. And also to think about what we have to promote is treatments like immunity treatments and services that really promote health and wellness over just the pampering that may have been more common in the early years of spa development in the US.
Fabulous. And Clark, what are your thoughts?
Well, to build on Lynn's ideas here is what we see that's, the up and coming market. It even happened before the situation we're in now, is really, smaller hotels, resorts located outside of urban centers, because people's time is very limited. And so what we're finding is people are looking for short, intense getaways where they can just drive and get away. And really, it's wellness and holistic health is rising with everyone. Before we're in this situation, it is a strong, strong attraction. Our lives are so busy, so stressful. People want to get away, and not just get away to a nice hotel or a luxury environment. They want to get away and recharge, rejuvenate, and increase their wellness. So that's the market that we're really finding, 100 to 125, 150 room hotel that's with outside the urban cores that are really, really looking strong.
That sounds good for us in the spa and wellness industry. Lynn?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be like after, the economy went south in 08 to 10 era, we really opened up spas in these areas close to urban populations to have a lot more day business and to promote it and attract it. And so we've been doing that all these years, but that will become even more prevalent, because I think even people that might be temporarily unemployed, might be on a budget, they're still going to want that quick getaway and that sense of staying somewhere special, even if they're only going for a night. And maybe the flying, that comes later.
It's interesting.
Right.
Go ahead, Clark.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think one of the things that we've been discussing is that, just the whole fact of going to a spa is becoming more mainstream, and it's becoming more acceptable for men to go to spas. It's become more acceptable for spas. You go after work. Spa is just becoming more acceptable and more part of our lives, as opposed to 5, 10 years ago, it was more something on a special occasion. Now it's something part of our routine.
Yep. We can't hear you, Mike. Shoot. That's too bad.
Sorry. Maybe he'll jump back in with sound.
Yep.
Yeah. So, one of the things we have to always be careful with in the spa industry is that we don't get too faddish. We don't get caught up with things that are going to be the latest and the greatest and the newest. Maybe things that are latest and greatest when it comes to new equipment that makes our jobs easier, makes operations easier. But really, we have to come back to, being more simple. People want a massage, and then they're buying the treatment with the treatment, which is, what are they doing before and after that treatment? They're not just buying that 1 hour on a treatment table. They're buying before and after. So those experiences are what's going to help sell the rest of the experiences, which is, your financial opportunity with the treatment aspect.
Great. And that kind of rolls right into our next question. We've always kind of, for most properties, put the spa in the back corner. It's in the basement, or typically it's been an afterthought in a lot of properties I've worked in. And I'm wondering now, will we begin to take, now that we're empowering our own wellness and mainstream is starting to take this seriously, are we going to see wellness concepts throughout the property? Will it be a whole offering throughout the entire resort or hotel?
You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
And Mike, would you like to introduce yourself? And I'll let you
Sure.
take that question because you're an architect and
Sure.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I am Mike Dalezman. I am the managing director for Kollin Altomare Architects. We are based out of California, Long Beach. I am part of the Chicago office, and we primarily focus about 90% on hospitality. My background is in hospitality, luxury level designs, as well as high-rise residential luxury level designs as well. All right, so sorry, I missed the beginning parts of the conversations. But to kind of jump into it a little bit, to kind of build a little bit, Clark, on what you were saying too, the definition and what's included in the spa has kind of, been increased over time as well. And the types of activities that are offered have become, it's part of what's been making it a little more mainstream, is that, there's a lot more than just goes into it, that just, a typical massage or a facial. There's other types of experiences. And I think, to answer your question, Stephanie, a little bit as well, it is becoming more of a focal point in hotel designs and, and resorts, to kind of all the points that were being made before is, it is about kind of your wellness and about how you're kind of getting more, kind of given those opportunities to recharge yourself and to really kind of better, your experience there. And to that point, people don't want to have to kind of look around the hotel or look through the spaces to really find where the spa is. They want to kind of know where it is. It's part of, the fabric of the overall design. It's both where it's placed in relation to the outdoors, in relation to other experiences that can build off of it as well, both the fitness center, the pools, to a large extent. And again, the outdoors and the landscape components of it are all critical pieces of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to build on that, Mike, is that, the landscape, what we're finding out as well, the exterior interior is being blended beyond belief. Mm-hmm. So now really what is happening is that some of the best spas are really turned inside out. And so what we really do is the landscape, and, luxury now is really about space and privacy and security. Luxury is a concept that is always evolving and changing, but in spa, it's about space and privacy. So now, with the outdoor landscape coming integrated in, and more openness and the environment, that's what people are seeking. And what happens is that the spa is some place that, like, 5, 10 years ago, you were saying, Stephanie, used to be in the basement or used to be in the back of the property, now is much more paramount. And it is part of the journey and the experience. And now we are finding people will go to certain resorts just for the spa alone.
Mhm.
And we're finding spas are expanding and getting bigger all the time. We're finding resorts are removing their tennis courts, for example, and increasing the spa size, because tennis is something people do every day or during the week, but spa is something a little bit more special, an all-day treatment on the weekend. But the landscape, it's really about space, air, and that volume that people are seeking.
Especially in the luxury sector where you can, if you have a large resort, then the spa has to be visible from every aspect, even from the moment that you check in, from the moment you're calling and making a reservation or doing a reservation online. And even in your food and beverage menus, there could be a spa option just to alert the guest that there is a spa on property. And then that could tie into other wellness activities and other wellness components, which can bring in all the other rest of the departments of the hotel. And of course, I'm always a really big proponent, as much as, we all need our fitness gyms. I'm a huge proponent of Mother Nature's fitness gym. What is outside the back of the hotel? Is there a hiking trail? Is there a biking trail? Is there a beach you can walk on? So those would be some of the incorporated areas.
So what elements are we going to see in the future of spa design that brings some of these in, and where are we going with that, do you think?
Anything on the interior that Mike creates could be combined with the exterior, what Clark creates, to make a really smooth transition between the indoors and outdoors. Obviously, you can't do that in every destination, but that would be my take. And also keeping it simple, making sure your operations can flow seamlessly and easily, so that the guest never feels like there's a lot of hustling and bustling around.
So, to just add on to that, I think what I think a trend that we will see is very clear, is for a long time, a lot of the big hotel companies were really going for sort of global consistency. So they were really trying to make sure that brand quality was equal, whether you're in Bali or you're in Cairo, and going across the board. But what we're finding now is some of the key brands that are forward-thinking and trying to, think of the future. So when we design properties, we're really designing 4 or 5 years from now. It's really, instead of global consistency, we're going for local authenticity. And people are really, really seeking out that kind of experience. So when I go to Bali, I am going to have a Balinese experience. When I go to Cairo, I want an Egyptian experience. And I really want to experience that environment. And that is where the landscape plays totally. Because right now, as this planet is going forward, we are speeding to a sort of global homogenization. Whether you're in London or you're in Moscow, there's still a Starbucks coffee. Wherever you are, there's still the same thing. So people want to go now and go for the unique, the authentic. So when I go to Mexico, I want to have a Mexican landscape spa journey. And that's the second part I want to emphasize. It's now about the journey. As Mike and Lynn and we've been talking, it's really about how do you enter that spa community or area? How do you enter? How are you received? What happens when you go and change? How are you brought out? What happens in your treatment? What happens when you come out of the treatment? What do you see and experience? And how does that enlighten you during that?
So we're really talking about transformational kind of experiences. And transformational travel and spa might be blending together in the future, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points, Clark. I think the idea of kind of having, local designs and, both, local experiences, and that, a spa is not a one size fits all anymore is a really key component to kind of where this is going and what's critical as we kind of push forward and kind of, to create kind of what those, intimate type experiences are for the, for the different individual. When you're going to have different, types of guests coming to the, coming to your resort and being a part of the spa as well, you're going to want to have different type of catered experiences for them as well, and it's about creating those types of opportunities and having the flexibility to have those those different types of experiences for them, both whether they're indoors or if they're outdoors. I think a big part of the spa experience is both not just contained to the actual footprint of it as well, but also how is that carried out through the rest of the hotel? Are there other areas outside, a heavily landscaped, area that can be made into a private space for an outdoor, treatment, or an outdoor yoga type class? How can the landscape and the building kind of, interact with each other to kind of create those more intimate experiences, both for, the person inside and outside of the hotel, both when you have a lot of space and when you're confined to to smaller areas, as well.
Yeah, and while the brand standards have to be maintained to much of the extent, depending on the brand and the type of property and whether it's a boutique or a larger convention hotel. Agree. I mean, the reason people travel is to go to that destination. They're not going to travel to another big corporate hotel necessarily, but if that corporate hotel happens to be in the destination they want to be in, that's even better. But I think that we sometimes forget about the things that bring wellness to light, which means something different to everybody. And the wellness word is I mean, don't get me started on this, but the wellness word, it means so many different things to so many different people. It's so hard to build wellness. It's so hard to build a wellness retreat, because what does that mean? And I think everybody has different goals, and even a same person can have different wellness goals throughout their life or throughout the week. Maybe one's wellness goal is to just make sure they get their roots done soon, and another person's wellness goal might be to make sure they're going to a retreat once a year where they can spend a week and be completely immersed. So I think offering those kinds of things all within the context of being local, being indigenous, and taking advantage of the local talent. There are some areas of the world that hospitality is just innate. It doesn't have to be trained almost. You think about Mexico and Hawaii and parts of Indonesia. And I mean, it's, a way to design your facility so that you can show off the local talent and show off that local flair.
Wonderful. We have a question, and I'll pose it to Mike first, because I know you're working on a project right now in VI in St. Thomas. Raj has joined us, and he has a gorgeous property, if you've never heard of it, called Scrub Island, which I think is technically in the British Virgin Islands. And he's wondering, it seems that guests are going to be taking local regional trips like we discussed. And once international travel does open up, the Caribbean, I think, is going to be pretty attractive, especially those places with very, few cases of COVID. So he would like some examples for specific Caribbean themed things he could do in his island. Any ideas?
Yeah, actually, I did take a tour of Scrub Island about a year ago as well. It's a beautiful, island that's catered entirely to a Marriott Autograph collection. I think a lot of the things that that we're seeing, or things that could be done on Scrub Island in particular, are how can you, given the expanses of the island where you have houses and the hotel components and then kind of the beaches kind of scattered throughout as well, it's how can you kind of create more of that intimate space, a lot more of those intimate spaces throughout. I think about another property like the Fairmont Scottsdale and Princess, where that one, it's a campus oriented property, and it has a massive amount of, space for the spa and for the wellness center, but it also incorporates the fitness center. It also incorporates cooking classes. It also incorporates, aerial yoga, but, yoga classes in the pool as well. And I think a lot of that, are things that could be done, at Scrub Island or at other Caribbean locations too, are kind of finding what are some of the, the hidden talents to some of the, for a lot of the local businesses that are going to, that can be operating in there, and what are the types of experiences that they can provide there, but then finding ways to expand it and kind of bring it throughout the entire island and throughout the entire property. I think, limiting it to just one area, it might not do it complete justice, but I think Scrub Island finds a lot of those, even with their houses, that they've got too. They've got these beautiful pools that overlook these beautiful, these amazing views, out into the ocean in each of these houses. And I think, how you can kind of create more of those in a smaller scale and scatter them throughout the property would be a great way to, kind of start integrating both the landscape and the overall, scale of the property.
Yeah, and in that market too, very, very personalized service. Those guests are coming and wanting something set up for them, maybe even ahead of time. What are your wellness goals, and how can we set you up with a wellness concierge and work with you through your visit?
I love that idea of a wellness concierge. Who does that really well is Brits Reserve, and they also have an ambassadors of the environment program. So I think as the more we tap into nature and talk about the environment, local experiences could also be something that's a part of our wellness concepts in our spas, where we're getting people outdoors. Maybe it's swimming with stingrays, depending on your location, or turtles. In Puerto Rico, we did a hatchling of turtles, and we got to go on the beach and find the eggs and assist with the turtles. And it gets your guests out in your environment and creates a great connection with your destination, your property.
And education too. That's great education that and it alerts people to the environment and sustainability and what we do, and that of course then meets the goals of the property and the values of the hotel operator and owner, with the education.
Yeah, I think that I was just going to touch on that, Lynn, is that, travelers today are much more sophisticated and educated, with the internet, and, they learn a lot more about the place, and they select their places because they've done background research. And so one of the things we're finding is that people want to go there and they want to learn. They want to get enlightened. And that's part of wellness, is you want to grow as a person. You want to learn new things. And so, gone are the days where you go on a week-long vacation, you just lay on the beach and suntan for the whole week. People don't do that anymore. They really want to go and experience the culture and the environment. So as Mike, you were saying, touching on food and cooking and dietitians and wellness that way is very, very important. And people are looking, that's part of the experience. So as I was talking earlier about luxury, it's a concept that's sort of always evolving, and also it's different for different people and different cultures, as like wellness is. But one of the things with luxury is really you just really want to, go and experience. So what it used to be is more about buying things and materialism. And we're finding luxury now is actually moving to more emotional and more tapping into the psychic and sort of feeling of inside and that sense of belonging. So when we are designing wellness spaces and resorts and hotels, the best ones that are most successful are where the guest feels that they're belonging in the space. And that, I think, is what you can do by wrapping all of these elements together in a way that is local and authentic. It's like nothing else. So we got to stop copying each other, and we got to start looking and pushing brands and pushing people and concepts to be more unique and strong in that way.
I think that, and that's why it's so great when we in the spa industry are working with professionals like Clark and Mike, because they're doing other things too besides spa. They're doing a lot of other things besides spa. And sometimes the best and newest spa ideas come from outside of our industry. So I agree with that, Clark.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of it too, in today's, technology-driven world too. I mean, you got Instagram, you got Twitter, all these different social media outlets. I mean, everybody wants to kind of have that unique kind of experience and showcase it. And if everything kind of, blends the same, you're you're not really getting kind of that difference maker at your property or at, at your, wherever, for your experience. And I think that's a big critical component to it of, both the design and the, and the end user's goal too of how can you create that kind of, quote unquote, Instagrammable moment for them where they want to take that picture, they want to showcase it off to everybody. And then others, want to find ways to kind of, not recreate it, but, find examples to bring back into their resorts too, and find, and into their spas and find ways to enhance their own areas.
Right. But one thing that's also happened there, it's kind of interesting, is that there's some ideas and concepts floating out there that, to make ultimate luxury would be one step, is that beyond this point within the spa, there is no Instagram moments allowed. There is no Instagram. So the only way you can see and experience that spa is by going.
Right.
So that's the next, like how Amman is done very successfully. They have no printed, they have the printed brochures, but they have no advertisement anywhere in magazines or globally other than the brochures that they hand out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ultimate tier of luxury. We have some good comments that I want to redirect a little bit. So in terms of localization, Laszlo brought up, so in Mexico, if everyone had Mexican experience, how are they going to differentiate themselves from the competition?
Well,
Sure.
That's a good question. I think there are different ideas and different opportunities within a country to take, something that's more plant-based or more, using herbs from a garden that's local. And I think there are different product lines that can be brought into the property, as well as unique creations by the chef and other departments in the hotel and decor to stand apart.
And I think really telling a story too. I think this is where Lynn and I get excited when we're developing concepts, but everybody can have a different story and different set of offerings. I don't think it's just Mexican. It's really, is it tying into celestial? Is it tying into herbs, or is it tying into the indigenous culture? I think everybody can offer something different. And also tapping into where your property is specifically in Mexico and what makes that special and unique. Could be something that would work. Guys, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think totally spot on. I would say, I said service at first, it always comes down to service, but a concept is very important. We always sort of structure the fact that if you don't get the concept right from the beginning, you're in trouble. And as Lynn, you said, is you can have 1,000 different concepts, and as you were saying, Stephanie, too, the concept is the unique strength that you build the foundation with, and you build everything on top of that. So even though you could have two spas side by side on the coast somewhere, like in Cabo or whatever, the spa concepts could be completely different and still 5-star plus luxury.
I agree with that. And, that storytelling kind of process, that doesn't end with just kind of the concept. I mean, it started from when you first get onto the property, from your drive to the, to where you get dropped off and going throughout the entire, hotel or the resort. Not just in the spa, but really how it goes, and kind of seams itself together throughout the entire, the entire property, the entire experience. And I think that's a critical piece, and that's a way to differentiate yourself in terms of what that concept is and how you're kind of, carrying that throughout the property, and the location of it, and, and kind of embracing where you're, where you're at demographically or, or physically as well, both with terrains or other types of landscapes too, are a big piece of that.
And there's never been a better time to kind of, if you have an existing property or spa, to revisit your story and craft that and make it special. So very good. I want to talk a little bit about outdoor spaces because I know it gets you guys so excited.
Get outside! Everybody get outside!
Clark. So any ideas for creative outdoor spaces, design, all these things we can be thinking about as we're distancing?
I guess it comes back down to, the concept needs to be strong, but the outdoor space is really, Lynn touched on it a little earlier. Simplicity is something that we really like. I think there's a quote out there somewhere that says simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And one of the things also too simplicity allows is that you become more timeless. So as she mentioned earlier in this discussion today, it's really not about hopping on the trend bandwagon. We have lots of sayings, and one of them is, trend is, being trendy is one step away from tacky. So, you certainly don't want to be that. And so one of the things is in the spaces, I think what we're finding as well is like recently what we're trying to do is a lot of operators are trying to pack so much into the spaces. They're just jamming so many activities in the spaces. And we're finding to really make a difference is you take out a lot of that stuff and put one activity in one space and really accentuate the environment and the landscape and the materials and put people in touch with those materials. And whether it's water, stone, plant material, it's nature. And as we were talking about yesterday, is, wellness is really about, we talked about people, want to get away from the environment, get away from city life. And I was saying, it's really about not getting away from it all, it's about getting back to it all. And it's reconnecting to nature and coming and joining and getting involved in nature again. So really kind of connecting with the environment is really important. So those outdoor spaces have to be special.
Can you give some example of special outdoor spaces you've created and what those elements are?
Well, I mean, it could be just a simple reflection basin of water. It's what we try and do is we really try and transcend the everyday. So when people are involved in everyday activities, environments, what we try and do is create spaces that are not the everyday experience. So that might be being in a small space surrounded by dense vegetation and walkway, and really in touch with nature and brushing up with plant material as you're going from one space to another space. So it's really changing those perceptions and transcending the everyday.
Lynn, what are your thoughts?
Well, sometimes you have to really, if you're in the fortunate position that you're doing a brand new build and you have the opportunity to stomp around the site and see what's going on. I mean, one of the most vivid memories is walking the site of Dove Mountain, through the cactus, through the grass, and finding out that there were petroglyphs on the property. And right away we said, oh my gosh, we have to have those petroglyphs in the spa somehow. It has to be connected to the spa. So anyway, they ended up getting connected to the spa pool area, and that's actually how the spa location got chosen for that particular property, because we had that there. And I think sometimes it's as simple as putting a swing on a branch in a garden or at the beach. It can be as simple as that. And I think we have to remember that, again, when people come to the spa, they're looking for that before and after experience that makes them feel well and makes them feel happy. And maybe some of those wellness experience could be things that they can include with their children or with their family members. And we're working on a project. Mike and I are working on a project in St. Thomas, and that spa location, that's a renovation. It doesn't have as much opportunity for outdoor direct connectivity, but when you get to work with an architect that comes up with designs and good solutions to challenges, because, you know, we, the spa consultants, are always asking for 15 pounds in a 10-pound bag, right? So then the architects have to reel us back and say, no, we can't do that, but we can do this. And so that collaboration between and that synergy between the team members to create spaces maybe allows something like in this St. Thomas location to have a fantastic view, or have a fantastic area where there's natural light, where a guest can step out and then experience the outdoors.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it's, you know, a critical piece with a lot of renovations as well, is you don't always have that direct connection to both, you know, a beautifully landscaped, you know, garden to kind of go to. I mean, yeah, you know, there's a lot of great properties, you know, that the circulation path can make a big difference. But even just as simple as just how you integrate light, how can you create different types of spaces within an area to give you different types of light exposures as well, you know, is a really great way to kind of start fine tuning the design to be able to integrate landscape. I mean, landscape isn't just, you know, the nice trees and the nice plants. I mean, you know, it's beautiful. It definitely enhances it, but it's also the natural, you know, world as well, and the lights that you can kind of bring in and how you can get the views to both look out there. But I think in some ways too, and, you know, again, referencing the St. Thomas project, you know, since we are so limited in, you know, in space, you know, with, you know, the amount of space that we have, it's how are we expanding that spa footprint as well, you know, both in other areas. You know, we've got, you know, beautifully landscaped palapa designs for where, you know, fitness equipment or treatments could be done in other locations that can kind of be used in different ways, both, you know, keeping the palapa as a full-time permanent, you know, fixture versus is it something that's can be taken down at times, and how can the landscape work around that to kind of bring it in, so you're kind of getting both the experiences, but, you know, you're kind of expanding what the footprint is of the spa as well, and giving more opportunities as well to integrate with landscape and, you know, throughout the property.
Yeah, 100%. Because one of the things that is really good too is, you know, in a resort, is really create the framework. Okay, so a lot of operators like this. We create the framework. So let's say a couple of pavilions on the beach or overlooking, and then within that framework, they have a lot of flexibility going forward to, you know, put fitness equipment on there some days, have a yoga session on there another day, have meditation in the sun in the morning, do something different at night. You know, it's really about creating frameworks and then having the flexibility to operate within those frameworks to create more diversity of experience, and especially with a resort that has maybe shoulder seasons or a high season and low season. That's really critical, because we really kind of consider that you want to design spaces that feel half full all the time rather than half empty.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that can add to revenue too, because if you use those spaces for other things, not even spa and wellness per se, but or vice versa, you know, you have maybe in an urban environment, you have a rooftop bar that only gets used in the evenings. Well, that could be used for that morning yoga class and simple things like that. Or if you have the opportunity for a spa garden, or you have a thermal area, that could be opened up in the evening for a corporate event or a dessert or a simple cocktail reception. And then you give the group sales managers an additional venue to sell as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We used to do that at the Palms and Turks. We would have buyouts for weddings. So they would actually utilize the space for their reception, and they would have full access and as many treatments as they wanted throughout the day. And that was a 30 treatment room spa. So I want to, we had some great discussion yesterday about wellness and making it a priority for all properties. So not if you don't have a big spa and you're in the lower tier of the market, what are some ideas that we can give people to bring in wellness and spa if they don't have the great big space or the opportunity? What are your thoughts on that, Lynn?
Well, the guest room is the first, you know, the first thought, of course, just making sure that your guest room is, you know, contains products that are sustainable. And operable windows are a big deal for me. I love operable windows. If you can't, then certainly having a great HVAC system, but also incorporating the wellness into the F&B menus and providing the guest with activities they can do locally that are wellness related. it could be as simple as, what's been around forever is the local jogging map, but it could be some other things too, a museum to explore or something like that.
Yeah, I think
Clark?
the other thing I think we think about too is that, there's a phrase out there, all that glitters is not luxury. So actually, I don't think it has to be good luxury, and good wellness is not associated with 1, 3, 4, 5-star, whatever. I think it's experience driven. So a smaller property, mid-market, you can make some wonderful spaces in your existing landscape and really make some really wonderful little gardens, do some great creative planting, and do wonderful outdoor treatment spaces that way. And it's really, then you're coupling the experience with service. So let's say it's massage or aromatherapy, those things, and that environment. And sometimes that is so intimate and so feeling like you're at someone's home, that's ultimate luxury. So it's sort of like doing a lot more with less is sometimes much more successful than having all the bells and whistles and everything under the sun in your spa, and you go there and you feel cold and isolated and not belonging. So again,
I think you're right, and that the trends of the smaller spas are definitely coming for saving in, construction costs alone, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with, all that. And, not to sound repetitive again, I think it starts with the arrival experience too, is, how you're being welcomed. It brings in the service aspect. It brings in how the overall architecture is relating to one another. And then, if you are limited and you don't have, necessarily, a full-fledged spa, is what are some of the services that you can offer both in, in the guest room itself? Has the guest room accommodated, been designed to accommodate those types of opportunities as well, or are there other fine moments that you can find around the property to kind of screen them off at times and create multiple uses for them as well, to some of the other points and from earlier conversations too.
I was just going to say, one interesting property, if you want a great example, is the lodge at Shaw Creek in Belize. And they actually have affordable housing. There are tents. And they have luxury villas as well, and they have a garden. And I said to them, I'm like, you could charge millennials to come and stay in a tent for $100 a night, and they would work in the garden free for you just for the experience of having that opportunity. And they grow all their own vegetables. It's a great property, and they do wellness really connected to nature. And their spa is teeny tiny, 2 treatment rooms, but it's on a gorgeous hill. And there's really, outside of the new villas, nothing screams luxury there throughout the whole property. But you just feel that, and you feel connected to nature. And I think that's what we're talking about a little bit. Mm-hmm. For an example.
Clark, in our conversation yesterday, I think you had a great example too about the grass. If you want to go on a little bit more on that too, but I think it's also finding, local experiences and what creates kind of, a local luxury sense as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'll mention that. So we were working with a Chinese client out of Shanghai, and we were doing a project down in Hainan Island, and one of the whole panel of lawn of living grass. And the reason is really a luxury item. You're coming from Shanghai, 26 million people, and all of a sudden to have the ability to walk on grass in your bare feet is a luxury. Mm-hmm. So there is something as simple as making a panel of lawn that you can walk on, and that is just the beauty of luxury and that experience, and people remember that. And so if you're in an urban environment and you haven't walked across fresh lawn first thing in the morning with the dew on for 6 months, you go back and it's getting back to those intrinsic qualities of being connected with your environment. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think spas are all about, and wellness is all about money and throwing lots of, stuff at it. Like it's really coming back down to being creative, having strong concepts, doing simplistic, strong, timeless design.
And Lynn had an interesting point yesterday too about bringing the whimsical aspect and some fun into wellness. Lynn, do you want to share that?
Well, I always think about those fountains that little kids play in, and as you walk, they're censored, they're motion censored, and as you walk through the fountains, they shoot upwards. And I just thought something like that would always be fun to create in a spa environment where people could just be fun and joyful. You know, the spa environment is typically we wear a white robe, we turn our phones off, and we be quiet, and we have to follow specific directions. You know, so I think the fun side, and that's where adventure travel comes in. So properties that are located in an adventure site have that opportunity to give that guest that adventure. But something that, so I think it's important to have fun, gotta have fun. But I think for the guest room, I think we also have to think about, even though we haven't talked about it this whole conversation, which we're staying very positive, but because of the sanitation requirements that are coming, we need to make sure that in the guest room, we don't have a lot of stuff. We don't have a lot of books and a lot of, you know, compendiums and things like that. Areas that could be, you know, easily cleaned and such, but still keep it fun.
Absolutely.
Right. And so that just reinforces what you're saying and what we're finding now. Again, back to the sort of the ultimate concept of luxury, that reinforces the fact that it's about privacy. So in-room treatments are actually a lot of people, you know, especially again, when you're looking at different parts of the world, you know, in the Arab countries and stuff like that, people, you know, have different attitudes towards their self and their bodies and different things. And sometimes in-room treatments are much more popular with certain people. And so we account and make sure that that happens, or we can do stuff on the terrace and do screening of curtains and stuff on the terraces and things like that. So it's about privacy. And I think what we're going to see, a new sort of stronger trend will be more about space. And I think, you know, we call it social distancing, but I think luxury is really going to be more about space. And people are going to want to pay money to have space.
So Laura has an interesting question leading into that, Laura Martinez. You know, I still feel the pressure of spa operations, looking at that month and you're 5 days away and you're not going to make budget. We're conditioned, you know, as hoteliers to, you know, turn them and burn them for clients kind of. So with limited space and locker rooms and things like that and the new rules for social distancing, how do you see that working with spas that do have limited space?
And I think, you know, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I think, you know, again, that kind of that circulation path that one takes throughout the spa, kind of, it allows both, you know, a user to kind of go from one treatment to, you know, and kind of extend that as much as they can. But are there areas where, you know, are there areas along that path that they can kind of stop, spend a little more time? You know, are there, you know, are there ways to kind of create flexible, you know, areas for people to kind of, you know, not necessarily gather, you know, so to speak there, but, you know, are there multiple lounges that they can be in? Can they be made more secluded? Can they be made more open depending on, you know, the type of clientele that's there? But are there other areas throughout, not just the treatment rooms, that you can create along a circulation path that allows more time to be spent a little bit, you know, to kind of allow that experience to be extended?
And it might be just adding, you know, simple kind of wall decor between lounges if there's not a lot of space, just so that guests know they have their own space.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then the other thing is, two parts of that is, one is you may look at extending operation hours, opening a little earlier in the morning, going a little later at night. There's lots of spas that go as late as 10 o'clock now. You might go later, because there's nothing great, you know, wonderful experience, get a great spa experience and then go back to your room and sleep. That's wonderful. But I think also too, as Mike has touched on earlier, is that it's really about some renovations. There may be a way, just as simple as, if you look at your existing spa, there may be a way, if you take down a wall, you might be able to capture some outdoor space and increase a lounge area, or increase some space and draw it out draw the experience out and have people separated more, or the other way is to look more in-room treatment. So in-room treatment, you get isolation and space, and it's very, very, social distance.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we haven't really touched on, too much on, in this conversation yet, that does play kind of a pivotal role is, the retail components too. Are there ways to, bring the retail space into it to allow that, to allow the types of experience or the types of treatments you're getting to be brought into, to be brought to your house, to be brought to your room, to extend, what you're doing in a, in more of a private setting for yourself as well. I think that's a critical piece of it is what that, when you first enter into that spa, if that's where your retail space is, or if it's at the end, kind of, along like a Disney-esque type style, is what does that, how does that relate to the overall story? How do the, what are the different types of pieces that go into creating that space as well? And what can you take away from there?
And it's an imperative part of meeting your performa, the retail.
Yeah.
Right. And then also too is really concentrate on repeat business, to get that, experience very, very strong and wonderful, that people are like, well, I wasn't planning, but no, I'll come back in a couple of days, or I'll come back for another, treatment, or I'll come back for a facial, or I'd come back for something else.
And I think they will come back when they know that things are being sanitized and they see it, and we want sanitation to be visible in the spa. We want guests to see that things are being sanitized, instead of hiding a housekeeper that comes at night, to clean. We'll have somebody, throughout the spa cleaning all day, so it's visible. And then that information becomes part of your marketing tool too, that, oh, you should go to that spa because we see them cleaning. And look, in the spa industry, we're already following a lot of sanitation procedures that are very, very good. The guests may not have been paying attention to it. Now they will. So with all those things Mike just said and Clark just said about spacing and all of that, we'll just have to incorporate that as best as we can, depending on the type of facility that we have to work with.
And Jessica Shore brought up something interesting that we've discussed, Lynn, having spas within spas. So now we have a spa room that has its own sauna, steam, whirlpool, whatever it may be experiential wise, and that guest is only going to that room. Is that something we may see in the future?
I think, well, Jessica, she knows what she's talking about. So yes, I think that could be. I think there are plenty of spas out there that were built too big. We all know about those, right? The grand spas, that there might be some opportunity for rooms like that. Spas that are small are a little tougher, because while you never want a guest to feel like you're turning and burning the room, you really do have to turn them quickly, maybe less quickly now with extra sanitation procedures. But yes, I think that's a really good point, and a very good possibility for the future.
I think that also is a big piece in terms of just, again, the overall design of how you're doing this, both, how you're kind of bringing people into the different treatment rooms. And there may be some things that maybe you don't need to have a book treatment for, like a sauna, or a steam room, and you're kind of being able to find a way to get back there and keep coming back to do that, every day of your stay, and continuously coming back without having to do the other treatments. And then again, maybe there's things you're taking away from the retail component to extend it as well. That's, as part of that, that becomes part of that sauna experience of yours.
Right. I think also too, it really actually enhances the whole experience, because you don't want to, you want to kind of have the spa like a series of rooms that sort of unfold as you go. So maybe on the first treatment, you only experience this part of the spa, and then it's like you talk to a friend and say, oh, well, you've got to go here and do this treatment, because you go do this treatment, it's a totally different kind of room and different experience and a different pool. And so more isolated kind of things were, again, more intimate, more luxury, and more ways to keep people coming back and create that buzz.
And I think a big piece of that too, I mean, yeah, if you have a lot of space, it's great to create multiple different types of zones and spaces that one can go in. But again, to kind of bring it back to it, the conversation of simplicity, like, in smaller spas, maybe there's only 2 or 3 things to really focus on. And it's not trying to get everything, that's going to, to kind of fit at, 15 pounds in a 10-pound bag. Maybe it is really just finding, 10 pounds to put in the 10-pound bag, and what are the most critical pieces. And that also comes back to kind of the importance of the location. What this, what the local, local service can provide there.
And that operations can handle it, because a lot of times things are beautifully created design wise, but operations can't work with it. Or, you think of that crystal chandelier with, 1,000 beads, that kind of thing.
Is that where we see luxury heading to simplicity instead of opulence? Is that where we're going?
Well, that's a big question, and maybe we need another hour for that. Just the last thing about the spa experiences and stuff. I think another thing that's very interesting is that your spa menu could be like a restaurant menu. So the spa menu could change with the seasons. It could change with the weather. So you offer certain types of treatments. So going back to Mike, you might not have 25 rooms and all the staff. You might only have 4 rooms, but you only offer certain treatments during the spring and then different treatments in the summer. And that's another way to create exclusivity and mystique and buzz. Well, you got to get in before they change the treatments because it's gone for another 6 months. So you create that buzz. I don't know if we can just say luxury is going to simplicity, because I think luxury is also privacy. I think luxury is security is another issue. I think luxury is a lot of different things. I don't know. What do you think, Lynn and Mike?
I think it's familiarity also. I think guests in the luxury sector love going to places where they're known and their needs are known and their desires are known, whether they've been there many times or it's their first time. That's over opulence for sure.
Personalization and customization, right?
Right.
I say the same thing too with comfort as another word to kind of throw out there too, is people want to feel comfortable, in that space, and that's both, coming back multiple times, but kind of understanding what, embracing what they know within there too, that allows them to feel that sense of comfort, and that's a big part of, landscape too. That's how, that's kind of why, landscape is such a critical piece of it, because nature is something that people innately feel comfortable with.
Right. So when I touched on it earlier, Mike, is exactly it is about a sense of belonging. So when you go into a space, and we've all experienced this, whether it's a house, a home, anywhere, a restaurant or whatever, and you sit down and you go, wow, I feel like I belong here. And I think that is a key thing. And that's another thing about luxury is that creating, in wellness, it's about serenity. It's about transcending the everyday. I think luxury is, experience and emotional driven. I think, we get in that rat race and, we talk about many times, luxury is going offline. I use this analogy a lot. Luxury is sitting at, on a nice, comfortable day bed looking at a large print magazine, a paper magazine. It's not swiping on a tablet anymore. Sometimes it's going back to where we were, to the basic and fundamental things that really, really are tactile and touch our senses. It's less chrome and steel and glass and more natural things like wood and stone and rock and sand and plants. It's those things that people really sense luxury, It's back to land. It's back to those things. It's water. I mentioned the other day, we're all mammals. We all get up in the morning and, we shower in the morning, shower at night. We all came from the womb that is just an ultimate swimming pool or, a flotation tank. There's something about water that's intrinsic in our human nature, So these are all things that, are very, very important to think about in creating, resorts and wellness destinations.
Okay, our hour is up. Final question. What positive things have you seen come out of the recent pandemic? Tell us something positive or something positive you feel is on the horizon. Lynn?
I have talked to more people on the phone and through calls like this that that I have not taken the time before to do that. So that's been great. Sharing ideas and seeing competitors sharing ideas with others to build the business.
I love that. Mike? Oh, we can't hear you again, Mike. Clark?
I have my microphone on now.
I think sort of building a little bit on Lynn, but I think what I've sort of seen is just a coming together in the community, doing more things like this, communicating and realizing that we're in it together and we're really trying to evaluate. And I think what is positive is actually we're going back to simplicity of core values, and we're valuing friendships, relationships, family, reading, music, the arts, those things that maybe sort of got passed over before in our lives because we were too busy rushing around. We're now taking stock, and you're taking time to learn a language or knit that blanket or do things like that. I think is a really, really sort of grounding effect for all of us.
Fabulous. Yes. And Mike is back.
I would probably just say that, service has really been kind of a critical piece of it. And it's kind of where a lot of it's going, is kind of re-energizing, both what others are doing for you, how you're interacting with them. People have such limited opportunities now to kind of give, appreciation for things that are being done. And it gets back to both when you kind of start traveling again, as well as the types of services that are going to be offered, and that there will be more of a focus on service. And it just, that creates kind of that interaction and that sense of quality as well.
Wonderful. Well, I thank Lynn Curry so much for putting together this amazing panel. It's been a pleasure to get to my work. I encourage you all to follow us with the hashtag Project Positive Planet. There will be a recording after this today, and we will have another webinar tomorrow with Kim Collier on plant-based healing if you would like to join us Friday at 12. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Stay safe out there.
Be safe, everyone.